Hello, and welcome to another episode and another season of Tabi 204. Today, I'll be interviewing Mrs. Brittingham, the new instructional technology specialist here at Dartmouth High. We're so happy to have you back. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, I had a couple questions about, this new role, what it entails, and what it really means for kind of how our classrooms are developing in terms of, the digital age and kind of how instructional technology is impacting instruction. So what exactly does your role entail? What exactly do you do?
Well, the role is really what I make it, to be honest. The idea is to be supporting teachers and students in the classroom, particularly with the meaningful integration of technology. So there's a significant difference between putting a kid behind a computer and putting a kid behind a computer with meaning and intent, and with the idea of skill development in mind. And that's really what I'm trying to do here at DHS, is to equip students and teachers for the digital age.
Definitely, and it is rapidly approaching. What exactly would you determine is the difference between just plopping a kid in front of a Chromebook for 6 hours or equipping, instructional technology with skill building in mind? What is the difference?
It's really in the way that the instruction is delivered. So when you're using the technology, it should never be about the tool. It should be about the learning objectives and what you want your students to be able to know and show you that they know how to do. And really, if we're taking that to the next level and really thinking about where we currently are in the technological era, we're actually asking kids to be more innovative and to do something that they couldn't have done before without the technology. So we're replacing traditional learning with more innovation, which is really what I'm trying to support here at DHS.
Okay, and so it really improves just kind of, their creativity, their innovation, more opportunities are available, with all these websites and tools on a Chromebook or on a computer rather than just pencil, paper, answer these questions.
Correct. It's much less about memorization now and what you know, and more about what you can do and how you can find the information you need to advance something to another level.
Exactly, because nowadays you can just Google the facts that you forgot.
Absolutely.
However, the skill sets and how to apply and how to analyze, those are skills that ChatGPT cannot give to you.
Correct. And that these skills are actually going to become even more integral now that AI is on the scene.
Exactly. So what is your opinion on the use of AI in the educational setting, either with regulation or by students, usually as a type of educational shortcut?
Well, that's a complicated question. And there's a complicated answer. So I'm all for using AI in education. I think that we are failing students if we don't, because it is a skill that you're going to need in your personal lives and in the business world. I mean, quite frankly, AI is integrated into almost everything now, and we're interacting with it in areas that we don't even know that we're interacting with it. So if we're actually going to be prioritizing education and skill development, we owe our students the AI literacy skill that they need in order to function beyond Dartmouth High. Now, how do we get there? That's where the restrictions come in. So we're actually doing a lot of work on policy development in the district, and I'm supporting a couple different groups here at the high school to begin talking about how we want to integrate AI literacy into the curriculum in all subject areas. And I think you're going to see some big differences coming out, but one of the big concerns and things that we have to address are the ethical and moral implications of AI technology.
Very true.
And we have to make sure that students understand that AI is a tool and it's not meant to be shortcuts. And that's actually for the faculty too. It's not to replace our jobs either.
Exactly.
So,
it's not to replace, it's to supplement.
Correct.
And at least I found in my personal experience, pretty much in every classroom, kind of the current AI climate in education is don't use it, just shunning it completely, because it's only treated as kind of this cheating device or this substitute for actual tutoring or learning or analysis, instead of the helpful and often necessary aid it will become in the future.
I think you're going to start to see a big shift in that mindset. There's a lot of work being done at the state level in instructional technology to prepare teachers and technological leaders for the onset of AI, and we're starting to bring that work to Dartmouth. So you're going to start hearing a lot more about it. The teachers are going to start receiving training. We're going to start working on policy development, and once those pieces are in place, we'll be able to move forward with preparing our students. So we can't put the cart before the horse, though. There has to be guardrails and policies in place before we can open it up.
What do those policies and kind of pieces entail? I'm curious.
Well, big discussions, so it's not up to me to dictate the policy, but we are having discussions about it. things that teachers have brought to the table that are concerning are obviously the cheating ramifications and, how do we combat plagiarism, but also when it's appropriate to use, how to properly construct prompts, how to cite information. So, colleges are actually coming out with policies themselves on their campuses about their AI academic integrity policies, and we need to be mindful of those and make sure that our students are prepared. But I also think I personally think it's a really big piece of any policy with AI to make sure that adults in the buildings are held accountable the same way that students are.
Exactly.
Student rights are really important, so I strongly believe, for example, that if AI is being used to provide feedback on student work, that students have a right to know that and that they should be able to request human grading. Exactly.
It's completely unfair if a student is entirely, human work, human-based, but a teacher's using AI as a shortcut. The hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, teenagers are pretty infamous for being able to sniff through hypocrisy and absolutely despising it. And we do. And I've noticed a couple of my teachers, obviously I won't name names, but they do use AI very regularly just in assisting their teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I find nothing wrong with that. However, it's usually a closed Chromebook classroom in which we cannot use any sort of generative AI, any sort of aid in any way. But they do.
I think we need to find a balance, and that's true with all technology. It can be a blessing and a curse at the same time if we go too far in one direction. So that's really what I'm trying to do here in Dartmouth, is make sure that we have that balance, particularly with AI.
Very, very true. So AI aside, obviously that's important, but kind of switching gears, how do you feel about classrooms just increasingly becoming more digital, even in more exam professional settings? For example, the SAT, the AP exams, it seems like everything is leaving the traditional paper exam behind. What are your thoughts about that?
It's a complicated question because they're also asking about standardized testing, and that's a whole different thought process and
very, very true.
Thoughts and feelings there. But we are in the digital age. I do think balance is really important. As I mentioned before, I do think it is possible to go too far in one direction, and I do think that there are consequences that we'll pay for that if we move too far. I know people are concerned about human creativity, and I hear a lot about handwriting and the ability to sit and actually read a book. We actually just talked about this in a lead teacher meeting. Stamina for learning activities has decreased, and I do believe, and there's a lot of research to support it, that technology plays an integral role in that. So I do think that there needs to be a balance, but I also think that not having the proper balance then deprives our students of the skill development that they need in order to succeed outside of high school. So, it's
a very delicate balance.
It is
a balance.
Seems like. Yep, we went way too far with COVID, right?
Very, very true.
We had to go all the way this way, and now we're trying to find our way.
But yeah, you have to kind of teeter-totter your way back. And some teachers, some faculty I've noticed in the building are overcompensating by completely trying to get rid of technology in their classrooms pretty much entirely. Like, there's Google Classroom, Aspen, that's it. But definitely in the digital age, everything's becoming more computer-based, more digital. Students just learning with pen and paper are being left behind in one way or another.
Yeah, there are standards actually released by the Commonwealth called the DLCS standards, the Digital Literacy Computer Science Standards. And true integrated technology would have those standards embedded in all content areas. It would be something that was taught not just in a computer class, which is kind of the old model, or the former model, was isolating those skills, but really they belong embedded in all content areas. And
so because it will appear in every area of your life, not just in computer science or coding, etc.
Correct.
Definitely. So in terms of like the standardized testing, what do you think? Do you think there'll be a shift? How do I word this? Basically, if the testing is going primarily from paper and pen-based to digital, how do you think that'll affect kind of student attitudes towards it, like the prevalence of cheating? What are your thoughts on the effects of that?
Well, I can talk about the effects on the IT departments because all of the new computerized testing have placed incredible demands on school IT departments.
I'm sure it has.
It's not easy to accommodate all of the different test requirements and browser requirements and security requirements, and so that's
many more steps than just a packet and a pen.
Very true. In terms of cheating, which is something that you mentioned, I don't see the academic integrity issues as much with the online testing. They've got that locked down pretty solid.
That's good. Because I heard last year when all AP exams, or at least most of them, were paper and pencil, there were a lot of questions being leaked, answers being leaked online just by people taking pictures and spreading it around. And it would probably be significantly more difficult to do that with a computer that has all the security hardware and all these privacy protections.
I believe that it is, but there's always been cheating. There always will be cheating.
Oh, of course.
And
I
where
mean,
there's a
people
will,
will
there's
find
a
a
way.
way.
They will find a way if they need to,
Very, very
and they
true.
will. I believe that too. But I do worry about the pressure it places on students. I know
How
that.
so?
Well, I just know standardized testing in general can be a really
Very, very true.
high stress moment for high school students, and even younger students as well. So I worry about the pressure, and I also worry about different learning styles. So it's difficult to make accommodations or to make adjustments for different learning styles on a computerized assessment, a little bit more so than it is on paper and pencil. So if people need
How so?
different fonts or screens enlarged, or
True.
I spent quite a bit of time the past 2 weeks trying to get a screen reader to work for a student to take the SAT who required that accommodation. 2 full weeks of work with an administrator and a person in tech for
So there's a lot
for
more
one
steps
student.
involved.
Right, so it can be a little bit more complicated to make sure students are getting what they need to succeed on the tests, and not all students do well with online testing, so I do think that is something that may skew the data a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely isn't a one-size-fits-all type of approach, but it seems to be handed out in that type of way.
Correct.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for discussing this with me. That was the end of the first episode of the new season of Tabi 204. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Ms. Brittingham, for sharing your thoughts.
Thanks for having me, Tabi.